God bless everyone. At this time, I just want to go ahead and do a short reflection. I want us to be able to examine ourselves, examine our hearts, to truly see where we stand. Okay? We know that, me and my son were reading the book of Proverbs, and this was really eye opening for me, and I really loved going through it. So if you haven't gone through the book of Proverbs, I will definitely just really suggest that you go into the book of Proverbs and take a month that has 31 days and go through it and study it. Take your time to go through each verse and really reflect on it. It really made me reflect on the things that I do and how I live, and not necessarily going, you tend to go into judging others, right? If you see someone that, man, they have a lot of potential, only if they would just not be lazy, they could actually get things done. And we think about that, but then is there an area in our life that probably we're being lazy in? I had to come to a realization within myself, like in the things that I don't enjoy doing, I tend to procrastinate on it. So I don't like working with numbers, and I run a company, and I have to make sure that everything is adding up. And so I have to make sure that I do tend to that daily. And sometimes because I don't like it, then I'll go ahead and procrastinate. And in the book of Proverbs, in chapter 12, verse 24, it says, "The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor." So here's for the ones who are procrastinators, right? At the end of the day, you have to get it done, and it's going to be something that you will be put to forced labor. So that's just an example of what I'm talking about. If you're prideful, we know that when pride comes, then comes shame. But with the humble is wisdom. So us being able to acknowledge when we're being prideful, and also being able to understand what actually is humility, right? We can't boast about our humility because there's pride in that. But being able to take the right amount of space that God is calling you to do. Okay, so not being so humble that you shy away to the point that you want to hide in a corner and not do God's purpose, and not being so prideful that you want to be able to seek glory for yourself in what you do, but being able to occupy the right amount of space. I heard this, and when I was listening to a roundtable, and it's true. You have to be able to know that balance where it's like not having false humility and not being prideful. Okay, so just think about that. Analyze that point too. In discernment, discernment is such an important thing also that the book of Proverbs talks about, and not to answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. And then answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. This is the book of Proverbs in chapter 26, verses 4 and 5. This one was really difficult, and I had to read it 1,000 times. I had to outsource to see what it meant and exactly, understand it. And it's just basically to know, this is discernment and knowing when you answer, when somebody is talking in a way that you're like, okay, I know this is foolish, I know that this is not worth it, and it's like, and the person's just acting foolish. And this is when you have discernment to actually, should I answer? Because if I answer, am I just going to end up in his level? But that if we do answer, and God moves us to answer, that we tend to go ahead and be able to exalt his folly so he can see where he's wrong. Not shaming anyone, but being able to come to a resolution where we're peacemakers. Okay. Also being, justifying ourselves in our own eyes, justifying the means, of what we do. So in Proverbs, in the book, chapter 16, verse 12, it says, "All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirits." So we might say one thing and we might be like, okay, I didn't do this because of such and such, or I didn't get to do this thing. Let's say if I was supposed to read the Bible at a certain time, well, I didn't get to because I was tired, but then I sat there and I was playing a game on my phone. So it's just something that you're like, oh no, I justified why I didn't read the Bible, but you're doing something else. You really have to be able to God is going to be the one weighing he's the one that weighs the spirits. So he knows what is truly in our hearts. Okay. So these are just some of the things that I learned from the book of Proverbs, and I think that we should all be able to reflect on. I'm gonna add the verses here. Sorry, my nails are horrible. I need to go get them done. I'm gonna go ahead and add the verses on here as well, so you can go on and reflect on these verses. And really, I just want you to really do that kind of, just ask God to examine your heart. And if there's something there that's not right, and that's in every area of our lives, that we can take an account of it, okay? And be able to truly come face to face with whatever it is that we need to fix, that we need to put before God, so God can give us the wisdom and the understanding in order to work with that area of our lives, whatever that might be, okay? And just because you're like, well, that doesn't, what I'm battling with, what I'm struggling with, doesn't have to do with church. No, our entire lives are a ministry before God. So everything that we do is a ministry before God. And so everything we put before God, so he can help us to be able to always do better and to do our best, and to make sure that if there's something that we're doing that is not correct, if we're talking too much, if we're not having any self-control, that also has a lot to do with it, okay? So this is the verse that I want to use to be able to reflect on, is Proverbs chapter 20, verse 9, that says, "Who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from sin?" None of us. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are able to really, truly examine our hearts and see where we might be, where we fall short, because we all do, but where we fall short, so God can help us to be able to do better. Okay? All right. God bless everyone. I hope, I always pray that God, please help me for this to make sense. So I hope it did. And if you take anything away from this, it's just, let's examine our hearts for anything that has to do with pride, with not having self-control, with not being diligent, with not having understanding, with wisdom, with gossiping or discernment or self-justification. Let's ask God to help us, so we may be able to reflect on how we are and how we truly live our lives, because he is the only one that can weigh the spirits, and he truly knows what's going on in our hearts and the intentions of it. Okay? All right. God bless everyone. I hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you next week.